Hey there, my name is Anna Stoll and I own ZOOMGROOM in Hopkins, Minnesota. I am here today grooming little Miss Frankie. She is a puppy and this is her 5th haircut. You'll notice she's an extremely good girl. She has had a very good introduction to grooming and her parents do an excellent job of working with her and keeping her on a regular schedule. I have already completed bathing and drying her prior to this video. The next step is to thoroughly brush and comb the coat to prepare for the haircut. I always start by using a good detangler spray. Using a detangler spray helps prevent breakage to the coat and makes it easier to remove any tangles or mats. I use a combination of a slicker brush and a metal comb in order to properly prep the coat. When you first run the brush through the coat, there will be some light resistance. Once you're able to glide the brush through the coat effortlessly, then it's time to double check with a metal comb. I prefer to work in small sections at a time. Once you're able to get the brush and the comb through the coat without resistance, the coat is ready for the next step. Before I start trimming the coat, I like to make sure that the paw pads and sanitary areas are shaved and the nails are clipped and filed if the client requests this extra service. I love to use my Bravura 5-in-1 clipper for all of my detail clipper work. When I shave the paw pads, I use the number 40 setting, which is also 0.25 millimeters, and I like to really make sure the paw pads are shaved out thoroughly. I keep the clipper away from the outside edges of the paw pads since I need that hair for when I scissor the paws. I really focus my attention to the center of the paw pad. I often find myself separating the toes slightly and scooping in the center to achieve a cleaner finish. When trimming the sanitary areas, I try to shave with the grain to avoid any irritation. I try to be pretty conservative when shaving the sanitary areas. I make sure they won't be getting any bathroom on themselves, but I don't get too carried away with shaving everything. General rule of thumb for myself is I'll shave about a clipper blade size around the anus, and their bellies I shave the thighs to just above each knee and up to their belly button. When clipping the nails, I like to use what I call a shaving method. I remove a sliver of the nail at a time in order to monitor how close I am to the quick or vein inside the nail. I'm watching for the dot in the center of the nail as I do this. Once the dot appears, you've gotten as close as you can with the nail trimmer. I offer nail filing as an additional service in which after trimming the nail down to as close to the quick as I can, I will take the Dremel and file all around the edges to round out the nail and carve out the quick in order to achieve the shortest possible length. The filing of the nail will help stimulate the quick and will help it to recede, and eventually the nail will be able to be trimmed shorter. Filing the nails also helps reduce damage to the client's home, such as wood floors and leather furniture. They are also less likely to scratch their legs if they jump up on them. I currently charge an additional $13.20 for this service. When trimming the tail, I like to gather the ends and trim straight across. I then part the tail down the middle, creating a flag shape, and I trim the underside of the tail. I use thinners to soften the edges. I also lift the tail and trim any hairs that hang down that might get in the way of the dog going to the bathroom. When starting my longer scissor trims, I like to scissor the paws first. I find that this helps me set the base of the pillar legs that I strive for. When trimming the paws, I create a 45-degree bevel to give the appearance of the paw being lifted off the ground. I trim the top of the paw into the leg when I scissor the legs. This creates the pillar look. With this particular coat type, I always make sure I go back with a thinning shear and soften the edges. Frankie is getting a 1¼ inch haircut, or 31.75 millimeters. I have found that the 1-inch wide guard comb is equivalent to the 1¼ inch regular width guard comb. Don't ask me why, it's just how they were manufactured. I try to use the wide guard combs as much as possible. They really help save time, and I found they help achieve a smoother finish since they are covering more surface area. I use a number 30 blade under all of my guard comb attachments. I choose to not backbrush on any of the dogs I'm grooming. I do this in order to trim the hair in its natural position, and this creates a nicer finish. If I force the hair in an unnatural way, and it can cause some of the hairs to be picked up unevenly by the clipper, and some sections will be cut too short. Frankie has very thin, soft, and straight hair. Her coat's difficult to get a smooth finish. You will see me use my thinners and chunkers a lot on her coat. When I'm working on scissoring her coat, I use a wide tooth metal comb and I fluff the coat straight out from her body. I want the hair lifted just enough so I can see the uneven areas. Once I trim it, it should fall back into its natural position. I go over her entire body thoroughly. I pay extra attention to her paws and legs as this is a focal point for the client. Once the body is complete, I will take the grooming loop off and start her head. Always make sure you clean up the neck area where the grooming loop was sitting. I start the head by cleaning up the eye area, lip area, and the surface of the ear canal with a number 10 blade. I trim the eye area from eye corner to eye corner only. I do not trim down the bridge of the nose or up into the forehead area. I just want to trim the hair that's close to the eye corners. With the lip hairs, I only want to trim about the width of the nose. And then I also will trim in their flew area along their lips. And with the ears, I like to shave around and in front of the ear canal in order to allow air to reach into the ear canals. This helps prevent ear infections and irritation. I prefer to scissor Frankie's head. I find I'm able to balance her head with her body better that way since she's getting a long length on her body. When I'm scissor trimming a head, I always start on their muzzle. I create a half moon shape along their jaw, starting at the nose and follow it back to under their ear. I angle my shears up into the muzzle hair in order to layer the muzzle hair and give it a rounder appearance. I follow the line I created on the jaw and trim the chin to balance. Then I match the length on the other side of the muzzle, and I trim the hair along the bridge of the nose and round it out and trim any hairs that are sticking up in front of her eyes. When scissoring the visor, I trim the outside corner of the eyes tighter, and the middle of the visor I leave slightly longer in order to give a nice expression to the face. I fluff with my comb and trim the top of the head. I mostly use my thinning shears or chunkers for the top of the head in order to achieve a soft, natural look. I put extra focus on trimming the hair just above the ears that pops out when they shake their head. I also focus on blending the back of the head into the body. With Frankie's coat type, it's important to keep it looking very natural, so thinners and chunkers will be your best friend. Frankie has very long and straight ears, so when trimming this type of ear, I like to trim the bottom straight across and I like to angle the back side of the ear and leave the front edge natural. This gives a really nice shape to the ear and it complements the head style. I will also take my thinner and smooth out the edges just like the rest of the body. Frankie is all set and ready to go. She's excited to show her family how pretty she is. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.